Okay, so I think I'd like to go ahead and start the meeting. Are we getting ready to go live? Are we live now?
We're live.
Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please rise to the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would just like to take a moment for us all to send out some positive thoughts and prayers to Jordan Burke and his friends and family and the whole community and sort of the extended Central New York basketball and football community that was affected by the accident this morning. So if we could have a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you.
We have one addendum to the agenda, and that is that there's going to be a public comment period made available prior to the end of section 5.
Okay. So I would like to move on to financial items. We'll start with a discussion of the 2019-2020 budget.
All right, and Bob's been working pretty tirelessly over the last, for the last several weeks especially, doing some review of the 1920 budget, as well as preparing the 2021 budget. There's a lot of uncertainties with the 2021 budget, and we're trying to find ways that we can put ourselves in the best position possible by reviewing elements within the current 1920 budget. I'm going to turn it over to Bob to go through some of the work that he's been doing.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. First off, with respect to the 1920 budget, one of the big issues, and I'll have more details on that budget in our regular meeting next week. But one of the things that we were really looking at was the issue of the impact of paying people during the closure and how that was impacting us fiscally, and whether there are options to implement that could reduce the district costs preferably without negatively impacting employees. And what I learned over the course of the last 2 weeks, was that there is an option through unemployment, where if we place some individuals on an unpaid leave status or a furlough, for lack of a better word, and put others on a reduced work schedule, that the State Department of Labor has a program called the Shared Work Program for those that would be on reduced work, and unpaid furlough individuals would be able to collect unemployment. Normally that is a very challenging recommendation to make because of the impacts not only on our work lives, but also on the individual employees who would be impacted. However, one of the things that is available currently available through July 31st is something called the Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, which is a federal program which provides additional unemployment compensation for individuals who experience a reduction in earnings or are laid off during this crisis. That amounts to $600 per week per person, regardless if it's they are laid off completely or just reduced as little as 20%. With that in mind, I went through our current schedule and identified who is doing what, and you see it up on the screen there. Basically, right now we have 8 employees working in our kitchens. 6 are kitchen employees, and they're supplemented with 2 aides who are working on meal production. They're working in 2 crews of 4 on alternating weeks. And that started actually yesterday with the two crews on alternating weeks. We're down to 1 production kitchen at the high school rather than operating 2. We have 18 drivers and aides, 9 of each, divided into 3 teams, working every third week to deliver the meals. So there's 3 drivers, 1 driver per route. There's 3 routes, so 3 drivers and 3 aides doing the meal deliveries daily. They work a week and then they're off for 2 weeks. The bus mechanics are down to alternating weeks, so they're on half time essentially. We have 9 aides, 4 drivers, 2 nurses who are not required to report to work at time. The nurses are working remotely as necessary, but that activity I've been told is minimal. Day cleaners are on adjusted schedules, as is the elementary worker or maintenance worker, and all night cleaners are not required to report to work at this time. The B&G supervisor is working full time, as is the IT director, and clerical staff are working remotely, some busier than others, depending on what's going on in each building, but they're all actively engaged to one degree or another. So with that broken down into those 4, we also have 4 individuals who are on, not included in those numbers right now. 3 of them are on COVID-related leaves, and the 4th one is a night cleaner, whom we need to verify whether or not she would qualify for unemployment. The plan that we've developed and laid out for your consideration is basically to take those individuals who are not currently working and place them on unpaid leave. They would receive full unemployment benefits, and they would also receive the federal pandemic unemployment compensation, or PUC. That additional federal compensation makes them whole. They would not lose. In fact, all of them would actually end up with a greater take home than just simply being paid. For those that are working half-time, there's the
Rob,
share.
can I interrupt for just one moment?
You bet. You bet.
I know that unemployment is taxable. Is the PUC taxable or not? Do you know?
That I don't know. I believe it is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. The shared work program, it's a State Department of Labor program that they have. I don't know if it's a new program, but they are really pushing for it as a way to implement workforce reductions in hours without actually laying people off. So what they do is they prorate an employee's unemployment benefit based on how much they work. So if we reduce somebody to 50%, we pay them 50%, they get 50% unemployment, and then on top of that, they get the full $600 PUC allocation. And then for the handful of people working near full time, I would recommend reducing them to 20%. And that helps save the district some money, but it also keeps the entire unit in the same boat. They're all experiencing some, and they're all going to benefit from it. So that's the advantage of doing that. And I know it will be challenging because at least 2 people I can think of are working their normal full-time plus hours, and they're the type of people that wouldn't want to cut back to 80%, regardless of what the fiscal incentives were. And then, as I said, we have 3 individuals who are on COVID leave. They're either caring for children or they're the primary caregiver for someone who is at a health risk and would qualify for the COVID leave under the federal rules. So we need to verify exactly how they need to be handled because I don't want to violate their leave rights, but they would certainly benefit greater by going with this furlough than being on the COVID leave that was implemented. The data shows that the district would save over a 6-week period over $60,000. And there is the attachment that goes with this has the impact on each individual as well as the impact on the district by group and by individual. And so that that was emailed to you today, and I'm sorry that it was so late, but things are changing so rapidly with this that it was hard to get that information out sooner. But you see, just with the first 20 people that we would furlough, normally we would pay that group $67,000 in payroll expenses for the 6-week period. But unemployment, we would be paying $28,000. And I need to sidebar here for a second on unemployment.
Hey, Bob,
Yes,
you need to pull that down.
pull it down.
Yes.
Showing up on YouTube.
You can't, this is going live. We're streaming this live.
Oh, okay. I think it's a matter of public record, but yeah, we'll take it down, certainly. Anyway, the sidebar about the unemployment insurance, the district does not pay an unemployment insurance premium. We pay on a claims basis made. So as an individual receives unemployment, the district then reimburses the state for the cost of that unemployment benefit, rather than paying a premium, an annual premium each year, which is modified based, like normal insurance is. So as we went through this exercise, we had to calculate out what that expected unemployment benefit was for each individual. We had assistance with the CBO, the payroll person at the CBO who works on our payroll to run those numbers based on a calculator that the Department of Labor has on its website. So we put in their earnings over four quarters, and the Department of Labor kicks us back with an estimated, not guaranteed, but an estimated unemployment weekly amount for that person. So that's how we were able to compare our labor costs to what our unemployment costs would be. We then took those numbers and looked at it from the employee perspective, what they would be making with unemployment, including the federal dollars, versus what they would be making directly, just paid directly by us. We broke that down by group, by the 50% reduction, the 60% reduction, and the 20% reduction, and that's how we ended up with the $61,000 savings. So this plan would create an opportunity to save the district dollars in a time of great fiscal uncertainty. The employees are not harmed. We would not be reducing their any benefits that they would be receiving. That does not impact their unemployment calculation. The one caveat is that the Federal CARES Act stipulates that a local education agency, state, institution of higher education, or other entity that receives funds under the Education Stabilization Fund shall, to the greatest extent practicable, continue to pay its employees and contractors during the period of any disruptions or closures related to the coronavirus. We're scheduled to receive $150,000 in next year's aid allocation. But those dollars are being taken back by the state through pandemic adjustment. So we're trying to get clarity on whether or not this plan, what exactly does greatest extent practicable mean? I think we're doing everything that's practicable, but I think it's wise to get outside advice on that. So the recommendation is to break again the individuals into 4 groups. This would be for all support staff employees. There would be between 20 and 24 in the first group that would be placed on the unpaid leave, and we know it's 20, and then if we can add the other 4 individuals that I talked about, up to 24. 21 employees would be reduced to a 40% status. Another 11 would be reduced to 50%, and then 8 individuals would be reduced 20% down to 80%. So that's the idea, and just looking for any questions or feedback on this. The $60,000 is based on a 6-week period that would start next Monday and would end on May 31st. So we would bring everybody back to full status on June 1 in expectation that hopefully we'll be back to school by then. Of course, if we were called to school before then, they would come back sooner. A decision hasn't been made about extending it longer. And finally, the final point is I have been in conversation, had multiple emails and one FaceTime meeting with union leadership, including the NICEP representative. They said that they don't necessarily endorse it, but they appreciate that we're trying to think outside the box. And the union agreement to the plan is mandatory as part of the shared work program for the Department of Labor. So I believe they're on board based on the last communications I've received. And then the next step really is to get communication out to those individuals who will be impacted. I was hoping to get a heads up letter out to them over the weekend, but we're still trying to finalize some pieces of this. So
Does this program, this is Murray, does this program affect seniority and or like someone that's closer to retirement service credit years?
it would impact service credit. In terms of seniority, I don't believe so because our seniority is based on last date of hire.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Bob, this is Brian. How did you decide who was going to be in which bucket, whether it's furloughed or in the 60-40 or 80-20 split?
Sure. Good question. The groupings is based on who is actually doing what now. Chris has 13 drivers, 9 of whom are engaged in the meal delivery, and 4 of whom are not for various reasons.